Climate change. These two little words invoke so much imagery. Many of us imagine melting ice caps and flowing water, or the warm summer sun, or life in a time of year where there used to be none. But almost none of us think of grasshoppers. And why would we? How are grasshoppers related to climate change? New research, conducted in tandem with a surveying project performed over 50 years ago, will show us exactly how these little grass-dwelling arthropods can shed light on the climate change issue in Colorado, and why it's so important. So how is it that a 50-year-old grasshopper collection can tell us about changing climate and ecology today?
Grasshoppers were collected 50 years ago by Alexander, and he collected it in such a fortuitous way that we could go back and resurvey and see how they've changed. And so by understanding the way grasshoppers change, we can infer that this must be happening to other organisms.
Cesar is a CU professor and head of the Grasshopper Research Project. He is taking data that was collected from former CU researcher Gordon Alexander and matching it up with modern-day data to get an understanding of how the ecology and climate of Colorado have changed over the last 50 years. Alexander's study originally had nothing to do with climate change. Conducting his research in the 30s and through the 50s, he instead examined adaptations by grasshoppers in various altitudinal gradients. But through his nearly 30-year work, Alexander compiled thousands of grasshopper specimens and conducted an extensive research project in the late 1940s, which we can now use to help us understand how the ecology and climate of Colorado have changed over this time. Both Alexander and Cesar conducted field surveying projects to collect all of these specimens. One of the sites that both Alexander and Cesar surveyed was here at El Dorado Springs, just south of Boulder. And even though there's been 50 years between their research, they collected specimens in much the same way. With a net. They would sweep the net from side to side, grazing slightly over the grass, and after only a few seconds, their nets would be filled with dozens of specimens. They would then sort through the specimens, taking size measurements, N-star ratings, which are developmental stages, and quantity measurements, all of which are compiled into a data chart. Cesar compares the old and new data to find out what these insects are telling us about the Colorado climate over the past 50 years. And what exactly is the research showing us?
So we're able to look at the climate data and then see how has climate changed along the gradient. And it turns out that the climate has changed mostly in the middle, so around the montane to the subalpine. That's where we've got the most warming that has happened.
So now that we know the climate is changing, what does this mean for us?
And so we're left with this data for these grasshoppers that can actually help us understand and sort of be advocates for how we can think about other parts of the community that might be changing. So for me, grasshoppers are a voice of the ecosystem and telling us what type of impact we're having on our communities.
It's amazing how something so small can tell us about something so big, and how everything is interconnected in this way. So the next time you think of climate change, you can also think of those six-legged little hoppers, and how important they can be in telling us about the world we all live in. Trent Emery, News Team Boulder.